So everyone, let me pause my music here. So we are going to be talking about the Twitch hack legal implications here with Noah Downs. And as you know, there's been some updates about that. Some news has come out from Twitch's end. So we're going to just briefly talk about what it means for Twitch, what they're going through right now, and then also for us, like what does it mean for us, especially with the new information that's come out recently. So let's start with a little introduction. Noah, tell us who you are.
Hi, everybody. My name's Noah, and I'm a lawyer, but I'm a cool lawyer. I represent broadcasters and indie developers and random people across the world in their business, intellectual property, etc. needs. Basically, if it's legal or illegal, I can help you with it, allegedly.
Awesome. You have a disclaimer that you need to give for this
Yes,
segment.
thank you. So anything that I talk about today is for informational purposes only. I am not your lawyer unless I literally am already, and we have an executed engagement agreement. So don't take anything I say today as legal advice. Your specific circumstances might always be different. So basically, don't take this legal advice and do it at home. Go to a friend's house.
Awesome. Go to a friend's house.
Yeah, it's they always say like don't try this at home, and I'm like go to a friend's house.
I see. That's fair. So why are we even talking about this? Like, what is the situation?
Yeah, so basically, a couple of weeks ago, a Twitch leak was made public on Reddit. Or 4chan, it was on 4chan first, and basically somebody came out and uploaded a torrent with 129 gigs of data that included all of Twitch's backend stuff, unannounced projects, streamer payouts, most notably, and that's what most people have been paying attention to, as well as a few other things that I'm probably not going to bring up because I don't want people to go looking for them. It was a bomb. Twitch was blindsided by it. The streaming world was blindsided by it. People quickly started to focus in on, how much is so-and-so made since August of 2019? How much is so-and-so made? What's your ranking? I know some streamers that have gone ahead and created merch based around the rankings, by the way, which is hilarious and awful. What it's turned into is a big media frenzy about the payouts, but really what it shows is that Twitch is not secure. It's not the first time Twitch has had a leak. They had a leak back in 2014, but back then Twitch was a smaller platform. It didn't have the full weight of Amazon behind it, only just slight weight of Amazon behind it. And now what it's showing is that even with all of this, they have some serious security problems. And so that leak a couple weeks ago was marked as part 1. And if it's marked as Twitch leak part 1, that implies the existence of a part 2, which we've heard rumors about, and I've heard some things as well that I can and cannot talk about. And so yeah, that's what's going on.
What can you talk about for a part 2 potentially?
I can talk about what I think, where I think part 2 would come from, and what may be contained in it. And I'm happy to dive into that if you want.
Yeah, definitely something that we wanted to talk about, and that'll help us get into talking about what users can do to protect themselves and prepare for the worst.
Yeah, so obviously with a leak of this size, clearly what we can draw from what happened with this leak is that somebody high up at Amazon probably got hacked. What we don't know is whether or not that security flaw has been closed or whether or not it's even been found. I can only assume that with 2 weeks, hopefully Amazon's figured that out. And I'm just going to call it Amazon at this point because, Amazon owns Twitch, and with a leak this size, Amazon is definitely paying attention. And so what we know is that there's been a massive leak. They've gotten unannounced projects, including a competitor to Steam. And to get to all that information, it is likely that they had access to other information, including not just payouts, but W-2 or W-9 information, both employees of Twitch and contractors of Twitch, of which you are one as a streamer. And could include social security numbers, home addresses, legal names, business names, private communications back and forth between content creators and viewers on whispers and stuff like that. So that is, I'm not blowing the air siren right now saying that stuff is coming out, but everyone should treat this as though that has been compromised, because it likely has. Now, it might not be that it gets published in part 2, because in part 1, the leaker seemed to be just targeting Twitch as a big, bad, evil platform. And they used the Twitch Do Better hashtag, which, by the way, the Twitch Do Better, the folks who initially created that hashtag had nothing to do with this. So it doesn't seem that they were targeting streamers, but they certainly could. And so that's part of the concern. What's also really notable about this is that if you look at the data, there's certain information missing from it, such as anything related to Dr. Disrespect. It is though it has been scrubbed from the face of Twitch's servers. So that's just a kind of a side note, because it's really interesting. But yeah, no, so everyone should be acting as though their personal names, banking information, social security numbers have been breached, similar to the massive Yahoo breach that there was a few years ago, similar to, the Bank of America and Wells Fargo leaks that we've seen, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So we did get some updates from Twitch in the last couple days. They did confirm that passwords were not part of the breach. Passwords were not compromised, and full credit card numbers were not compromised. How does that change the situation?
So it's good in that they're saying that passwords were not compromised. Now, keep in mind, Twitch has a vested interest in, one, keeping down panic about this. And frankly, we should all not panic about this, because panic doesn't really help. But Twitch has a vested interest in keeping down panic, but also saying the right things to avoid lawsuits. Because they suddenly have at least 10,000 people who have a claim against them. And we can get more into that in a little bit. So it's definitely in their interest to say, passwords weren't leaked. Credit card information wasn't leaked. Now, it could be that they don't think it was leaked, and they can say that to a certain possibility, or they can confirm. And they haven't said, either way of, we checked and this was not leaked. It's more of it likely wasn't leaked. At least that's what's been the internal communication at Twitch. And so while I trust it to a certain extent, I also am more interested in what they're not saying.
So they did say Twitch passwords have not been exposed. We are also confident that systems that store Twitch login credentials, which are hashed with bcrypt, were not accessed, nor were full credit card numbers or ACH bank information. Is that like a full
confident language? That confident language is what I'm referring to.
Okay.
For example, I could say that I am legally, I can say I am confident that something happened if I am 51% sure. As long as it is more likely than not, in my estimation, that something didn't happen, then I can say I'm confident in it. Now, I expect Twitch probably is 70% sure, but at the same time, they weren't up to snuff on protecting the information in the first place.
Gotcha. So it's
I'm
not
sure
a hands down like you're fine kind of situation.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
You should still change your password, if you haven't yet at this point, because it's just not, said and done.
Yeah, and to that end, I'm actually really not confident that passwords and other forms of accessing personal accounts have not been compromised. I'm at liberty to share some of this, and I can't go too into depth with it, but I've had conversations with several clients who have, even as recently as this week, had their payment information changed internally on their back-end dashboards. So, and their payments were diverted elsewhere. So that essentially what happened there was their information was good, it was good, and then the leak happened, and their 2FA failed. They used Authenticator on their phones for 2FA, and they didn't get any notifications via SMS, which indicates to me that Twitch's 2FA is not working currently.
Oof. That
or
would
at least
be
it
bad.
wasn't working as of yesterday.
Interesting. And these types of situations are totally possible for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, obviously the initial breach, like we don't have any confirmation that it's 100% closed. If they're not continuing to be vulnerable, if that person still doesn't have access, like we don't know even who the person or people who access this data is, or where they're from, or if they're internal or external.
Mm-hmm.
The second part of this is they had their entire source code leaked.
Yeah.
So that exposes Twitch to a lot of potential future issues. As we saw with someone putting Jeff Bezos' zoomed in face across different game directories.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is an ongoing problem and a future problem?
Yeah, I do. One, you're exactly right. Because they had their source code leaked, that means that one, even if Twitch is able to close the hole that led to this massive leak, their source code's out there, and there could be that somebody else can find another way in. And two, a security system is only as good as its weakest point. Which means that right now, for example, let's take a look at the 2FA system for logging into Twitch. You have a system where it says, hey, you can opt into, once you enter your username and password, you can opt into having 2FA enabled. And then if you have, for example, Authy on your phone, you would enter the code from Authy. However, Twitch allows you to send an SMS and bypass Authy. Meaning that you are subject to SMS 2FA in all cases, and you can't disable that whatsoever. So if somebody spoofs your SIM or finds another way around that, they could easily access your account that way. That is all going back to say that Twitch has built-in security flaws that they haven't addressed, probably because they're overwhelmed from everything that's happening between the DMCA and the not license agreements that they have with the NMPA and WMG, as well as the backlash from the hate raids that are still ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Twitch is just kind of overwhelmed at this point.
Let's talk a little bit about the other side of things of actually accessing this leaked data. A lot of people have been sifting through this. They've been posting screenshots of the leaked financial data, among other things. Are there repercussions for doing this, for accessing this leaked data?
Put it this way, there are several avenues that I think Twitch could go down for pursuing folks that are resharing the information. But regardless of what avenues they have, I don't recommend that anyone shares this information. For example, you as a broadcaster, if you want to share your specific number, say as an emote in chat, then that's probably fine.
Probably, you say.
I say probably because Twitch doesn't care if you broadcast your own stuff. Now, if you went off and created a command that you could just do ! And then enter a name, and it told you what number that streamer was. By the way, I've seen that bot command.
There was a website someone made of
it was, but
like
Twitch took it down.
Was that was Twitch that took it down?
Oh, Twitch took it down because essentially it's exposed information. You're receiving this as the result of illegal activity, and that's what Twitch is doing to pursue those threats and do takedowns. It is private, it is confidential, and while it is now publicly out there, Twitch is still trying to put the lid on it, and they have more money than we do. So
as
I don't
a creator or a user, you should not be posting that information, showing it on stream,
no.
Posting screenshots on Twitter. Like you could get in trouble. At the very least, potentially banned by Twitch, but they could go even further than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's dissemination of confidential information. And so in the terms of service and partner agreements and affiliate agreements, you agree that you're not going to share confidential information you receive on a confidential basis with third parties. And it includes a specific clause that says unless that third party that shared that confidential information that made it public was authorized to do so. In this case, nobody was authorized to release this stuff. That's why it's a leak. And so Twitch has an argument to say that partners and affiliates and frankly users that are resharing it technically are in breach of their several agreements. So I don't recommend anybody do it.
Gotcha. So what do you think is going on with Twitch Legal right now in this stage?
I think they're panicking. I think they're still panicking. Twitch is exposed on multiple fronts here. One, they're exposed in terms of the information's out there. And so third parties that partner with Twitch are concerned that the terms of their deals and their back-end communications will be exposed. Now, obviously, we've seen the fallout from similar stuff with the Washington football team investigation right now, showing that John Gruden was a complete butthead and getting fired from the Raiders. And so they're exposed in terms of confidential communications between their third parties. They're exposed in terms of confidential information with their partners, which have been shared. And there is confidential information in there. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'll tell you offline. So those are at least two spots that are exposed. Now, in terms of what was leaked, I think that there's certainly confidential projects that might put them in breach of contract for non-competes, without going too deep into that. And so it's very interesting. What's also been just buck wild going through this is I've spoken to several developers at Twitch who couldn't figure out why a project they were working on wasn't working. Like, when you search through the code and try and figure out where the break is, they couldn't figure it out, and they worked on it for like 2 months. And then what ended up happening was they saw the leak, they went to their project and said, oh, that's where it was. I didn't have access to that. So it's actually helped Twitch in some cases because it's opened information to developers so they can fix things.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah.
So what action should users take if they were affected, or even to prevent something from happening? Like what is the concern for users right now on the platform?
Yeah, so first of all, every single user on the platform, especially, let me put it this way, every single user that receives payouts from Twitch or has their social security number in any way tied to Twitch through payouts or whatever, needs to invest in a credit reporting and a identity locks like service, at least temporarily. Because you don't want somebody to go out there and open a bunch of bank accounts in your name if they have your information. Frankly, you should be having that anyways, just because of how often leaks occur. This is huge because it directly affects us, but it happens all the time. And it's just the first time we've seen Twitch get slapped this hard. And so you should be going out there and looking at least 2 months of protection. You should be constantly monitoring your passwords. Make sure that you check your emails at least 3 times a week to see if you've gotten a notification that your password's been changed, your payout information's been changed, something like that. At least until we're a couple of months past this. And because, you've got people that are actively having their accounts hacked right now. And while we don't have direct evidence that hack is as a result of the leak, we have significant circumstantial evidence showing us that if not for the leak, this wouldn't be occurring. So basically protecting your identity, changing your passwords, enabling 2FA, 3FA. I've got a client that has 4FA on right now.
Wow.
He's buck wild with it. That would be my recommendation across the board.
Gotcha. And if someone is affected by they think a repercussion of the leak, what should they do? Is Twitch responsible for their account getting hacked or their payment getting diverted to a different account?
You want the answer that you're not going to like? They should talk to a lawyer. If you, for example, if you were in that top 10,000 that was shared everywhere, you should be talking to a lawyer. I'm available. I'm already talking to several people about this because the idea is to, one, get a counsel that can help you protect your information going forward and do takedowns in the event that your information is posted elsewhere. And two, your lawyer can advise you on whether or not you have recourse against Twitch. And that's about as much as I think I can say on that, unfortunately.
That's fair.
But I do recommend that everyone talk to a lawyer.
Gotcha. So last question for you. Do you feel that Twitch's response with public information, their blog posts, and the way that they've done their emails has been sufficient, acceptable? Is it the norm? Is it, where does that stand?
It is not sufficient, but it is the norm. Twitch, if I were Twitch's counsel, I'd be telling them to lock down and not communicate at all about it, because in some cases, like with hate raids and with people leaving the platform and with the DMCA issue, open and clear communication is key. Right now, everything is too open and clear, and you need to claw some of that privacy back. So I'll be honest, I don't blame Twitch for how they're handling and how they're responding, even though it's frustrating for us as end users and content creators on the platform. They need to lock down their house and do a deep dive into this. And that's not a 2-week process. That's a multi-month process, because they're going to have an external security firm, if they're doing this right. They're going to need to have an external security firm going through every single thing and trying to find exploits everywhere. The only way that this could have happened is if somebody high up had an issue with 2FA breach. And that means that their house is not in order from the top down. So going forward, I think that Twitch's response will be to issue summaries down the road, but for fear of having more issues pop up, they should be locking it down until they know more.
Fair. Okay, so anything else that you would like to say in the matter, or anything that you would just, shout yourself out? Feel free.
Yeah. And I got a few more things that I'll just talk out real quick.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of questions in chat, like Chef Hazmat asks if a person can file a class action. Potentially. A lawyer can answer that question. And do affiliates have arbitration clauses in their agreements? Yes, several. Most affiliates have arbitration clauses. Most users of the platform and partners have arbitration clauses. However, there's in some cases you can get around, in some states you can get around arbitration in the event of a serious enough issue. And I think this almost might qualify for that. So I do think that people do have options. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And the question that I have is whether or not we're going to know how worse it gets, or if it's just going to get worse behind the scenes and then it'll slowly get better. And so I don't think, whoa, that was loud. I don't think that this is something that will be the last time Twitch gets leaked. I don't think it'll be the last time Amazon has a leak. But I do think it's a big wake-up call that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket.
Awesome. Well, Noah, thank you so much for your time and for, jumping on here and filling us in. I'm sure we all feel a lot better about the situation.
Actually, you and I should talk after stream. Yeah. And I'll just shout out real quick. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok at MyLawyerFriend, or Instagram at my.lawyerfriend, which is purely just like photos of cats and like aesthetic things. Hopefully we'll have some more information, but Lowco, I'll be sharing this with you as soon as I get it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have you back at some point for our next law breakdown. Noah, thank you so much. We will be right back, chat. I'm going to say bye to Noah, and I'll be back for a recap.
All right. Bye.